This is Apropos. The landmark Odyssey has been more than 50 years in the making. In just a couple of hours' time, 3 men and 1 woman will be embarking on the first crewed journey to the moon since the 1970s, marking a series of historic accomplishments. Over the next week and a half, the astronauts will hurtle several thousand kilometres beyond the moon, hang a U-turn before coming straight back to Earth. Ellen Gainsford has the story.
It's the first time that man is heading back to the moon in more than 50 years. The Artemis II mission is set to take off from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida this Wednesday. It aims to travel close to the satellite, offering opportunities for study, but it won't be landing on the surface.
They're going to be about 5,000 miles away from the moon for several hours on flyby day. And in doing so, they'll have a unique perspective that we haven't had since 1972. It's been that long since we've had humans up close and personal to the moon, and so they're going to be making observations of the lunar surface as they fly by.
For a successful launch, the moon must be at a particular phase in its orbit, meaning there's a window of opportunity of around a week per month. Weather conditions are also taken under consideration. The Artemis II will mark the first time a woman, a person of color, and a non-American will be sent on a NASA moon mission. The trip is viewed as paving the way for other ambitions, including future moonwalks and establishing a permanent base on the moon, which could act as a stepping stone for trips to Mars. In Florida, excitement is building.
We know that they're going around the moon, and it's happening right over there, so we're going to come down about 3 p.m. and hopefully get to watch it.
It has humans on it, and it's exciting for them to go up and go around the moon and come back. And later on, then they learn more.
Preparation for the launch hasn't all been smooth sailing. The program has been plagued by delays and cost overruns. Several previous launch dates had to be cancelled due to technical setbacks.
For more on what to expect and the significance of the mission, we're joined by Dr. David Brown, Senior Research Fellow in the Astronomy and Astrophysics Group at Warwick University. Thanks so much for being with us on the programme. We touched on it there at the end of that report. There have been a series of setbacks in the run-up to launch day. Do you expect things to go smoothly? So far, everything is looking good for a liftoff, but could the weather still play a role here?
Good evening. Yes, the weather could certainly play a role here. If there's any sign of even the smallest bit of cloud, then that's a risk of potential lightnings. The rocket passes through, so there is still a bit of a risk. We'll see a further weather delay, but progress seems to be going pretty well. They're quite far along in their pre-flight checks at the moment, so I'm cautiously optimistic, let's say.
And we can see, the very final safety checks well underway there. David, why has it taken so long to send astronauts back to the moon? It's more than half a century now. And why aren't they landing on it?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. There are a lot of reasons why we haven't sent people back to the moon. Political, financial, explorational. There was a certain sense that perhaps we'd got as much out of the moon as we could at the time, scientifically and with the technology that we had. But there's been a lot of progress since then, a lot of new discoveries. We've learned a lot more about the moon from remotely observing it. And given the sort of increasing excitement that we're seeing about human space exploration that's been building over the last sort of decade or so, let's say, this feels like a bit of a natural step, I think. As far as why they're not landing, it's generally, space is a risky business still. We can be as prepared as we want and as prepared as humanity. It's going to take these sort of step-by-step approaches to things. So taking the capsule to the moon and orbiting it lets us, check systems, check that everything works as we expect it to, check out how well the crew can work and operate inside the capsule for an extended period of time. So there's sort of good, sound preparation reasons for that. And also there's still some development work to be done on the actual lander itself. So we're not quite ready to land on the moon, but certainly going back to it, even in orbit, is very exciting.
Yeah, because some experts are describing these missions as a transformational step in the evolution of life on Earth, not just in terms of what's happening in space. Are we entering a new era, do you think, of space exploration, David?
I think we are. I think that for a long time, since Apollo, we've put a lot of the emphasis on robotic exploration, on satellites, and those have been very good, and they've gained a lot of knowledge and a lot of advancement for us. But I think that there is a certain romanticism to sending humans, a certain benefits and drawbacks of sending people versus sending robotic or remote exploration. And I think that, or I hope that this is the start of a new era of human spaceflight. I think that it's incredibly exciting and inspiring to see that this is still something that we can do, something that people can aspire to do.
And what is the ultimate aim of this mission? We've heard some experts talking about, how NASA's hoping to get a permanent base on the moon. Also, this could help pave the way for humans to get to Mars eventually.
Yeah, both of those are long-term aims. The lunar base would start to be built in a couple of Artemis missions' time. I think we'd be looking at Artemis 5 before that starts to be built towards the end of 2028. As far as a stepping stone to Mars goes, the moon is obviously a lot closer, so it's a bit of a safer environment to test and continue to develop our capability and our capacity to build these kind of bases, and also our understanding of how the human body reacts to being in space for extended periods of time. We've learned a lot from the years of having astronauts on board the space station, the International Space Station, but we don't fully understand how an extended period of time outside of Earth's orbit, where conditions are actually quite different, and the effects that would have on human bodies. So doing those kind of learnings in a slightly closer environment, such as the moon, rather than doing them all the way out at Mars, where it's a lot harder to recover or to adapt to unexpected things, I think is a sensible step.
And David, not so long ago, we saw the 4 astronauts looking very excited about their mission, giving their kind of final farewells to their families in Florida. How do you think that they're going to be feeling, and what kind of risks are they taking on with this mission?
I think they're going to be feeling very excited. I think in many ways this is the culmination of a lifetime's work for them. They'll have been training for a very long time for this opportunity. So I imagine that they're feeling excited, but as I said, because they've done all that training, a lot of this will feel quite routine, I would imagine. And it won't be the first time that they've prepared and suited up ready for a launch that hasn't potentially gone ahead. So a mix of excitement and sort of just getting on with the job, I would think. Risks, as I said, spaceflight is a risky business, but this will have been made as safe as it is possible. If there is any hint of any kind of problem with the rocket, the launch will be aborted, as we've seen previously. And so I think this is as safe as we can make spaceflight.
And as you say, Donald Trump pushing for a moon landing before his second term ends. That's in 2029. Is that a realistic ambition, do you think?
I think so, yes.
China also is trying to do the same thing. It says it's going to have its own team of astronauts on the moon by 2030. Who do you think is going to get there first?
I don't know anything about the Chinese Space Agency's plans and its schedule or timeline for that. The Artemis timeline for humans to land on the moon extends to 2028 at the moment. We will see how well that can be stuck to, depending on what we learn from this mission and then the subsequent missions. And
NASA says it wants to reignite passion in America for discovery, to fuel new industries. But how important, David, are events like this for humanity at large, speaking in broader terms, in terms of the inspiration that they can provide?
I think one of the things we learned from or one of the things we can learn and have learnt from the Apollo programs is that that inspirational effect cannot be underestimated. I speak to so many of my colleagues in astronomy research or who work in the space industry who were directly influenced by the Apollo missions to enter into the work that they do. And so I think I don't think we can underestimate that.
David, thanks so much for being with us on the programme. We'll have to leave it there for now. We'll have full coverage, though, of liftoff as soon as it gets underway. David Brown, Senior Research Fellow at Warwick University, thanks so much for being with us on the programme this evening.